I've been making Five Nights at Freddy's theory videos for a few months now, and I've been absolutely loving it. However, this is not a theory. While I'm hard at work on the next big video, I thought it would be fun to do a short discussion video going over the characters I think have a chance of returning in the next game. That being chronologically. If the next game is another prequel taking place at Fall Fest or something, then obviously a lot of these characters won't be in it. This discussion will be structured much differently than my theories. I'll be starting with the characters who are nearly guaranteed to reappear and ending with the more speculative entries. At the end of the video, I'll also categorize them all into a tier list. This will also be my first FNAF video where I'm working without a script, so you'll get to experience my improv skills in action. I do have some rough notes though, so let's actually start with the characters who I don't think will return. Starting off, we have Glamrock, Chica, and Monty. Now, I love all of the Security Breach characters, but we have seen plenty of them. We also see them get damaged a lot, not only in Security Breach, but also in Ruin, so I just can't imagine seeing them in an even more damaged state in the next game. That being said, I do actually think we could potentially see them in a different form, but I will talk about that a little bit later. But as they are, I don't think we're just going to see another more damaged Chica or more damaged Monty after the events of Ruin. Next up, we have Glitch Trap. This might be a bit of a controversial pick, but I really don't think we're going to see him again. I believe he is gone for good. If you want more information on that, you can check out my last two videos where I talk all about Glitch Trap and his end in Help Wanted 2. Especially if we pick up after Ruin, I really can't see anything other than just the straight up regular Mimic Endoskeleton being the antagonist. Now let's talk about the characters who I think are 100% going to be returning in the next game. Starting with the Mimic. Yeah, I actually don't have any notes for this one. Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory, I think. The Mimic is the main antagonist of the series now. We haven't seen its end. We're gonna have to deal with it at some point. There's not even a point in dwelling on this at all, so let's move on to Cassie. Like I said before, I'm pretty sure this game is going to come after Ruin. I also don't believe that she's dead because elevators have never been a cause of death for anyone in a video game. It would be really weird if she was dead, I feel like. So I feel pretty safe putting her all the way up here at number 2 in the 100% category. Next up is Roxy herself. She calls out to Cassie at the end of Ruin, so we know she's still alive and functioning, and if she called out to her, she probably is in the same vicinity, and they'll probably work together in the next game, something similar to what we see in Security Breach with Gregory and Freddy. I think that'd be pretty cool. However, I really hope that in some way Roxy can get some kind of glow up, and she already has low self-esteem as it is, so she really needs some kind of repairs or a paint job at the very least. And the next up is Gregory. This one also might be kind of controversial because I believe he is at Murray's Costume Manor, which is where Cassie ends up at the end of Ruin. That's not that popular of an idea, although I feel like it's pretty much confirmed. At least that is where the next game will take place. If you're not too certain about that, you might want to check out my video on it, wink wink. But also, Gregory just has more to his story. We haven't really gotten a conclusion for him yet, and we also just haven't seen him and Cassie together in anything other than Escape the Pizzaplex, so we probably need to see them together in a game, don't you think? And lastly, for the characters I believe will 100% return, we have the Tangle / the Blob. Yeah, this guy, I don't really know what to say about him. I mean, it is a giant mass of something, remnant, agony, who knows? We need answers on this guy. And the fact that he showed up in Ruin tells me that he's still important, and it will come back and we will get answers about it eventually. We also see in Ruin, as well as kind of in Security Breach, that it digs tunnels, and I think that's a pretty important detail, seeing as we're going to be very deep in the earth. So I could see it being a problem for Cassie while she's down in the caves beneath the Pizzaplex. Now, I said earlier that the Glamrocks probably wouldn't return except for in another form, and this is what I was referring to. I think they could be a part of the Blob at this point, especially if it's been gathering more pieces between games. Next up, we have the characters who I think are very likely to return, but I wouldn't really be too surprised if they didn't. First up, we have the White Tiger from Secret of the Mimic. This guy never really got a conclusion. He kind of just shows up and scares us for a minute, and then he's gone. In fact, its identity is still unknown for the most part. Is it David Murray? Is it the Mimic? We don't really know. It also happens to be located at Murray's Costume Manor, which, as I've stated before, is where Cassie ends up in, so it would be a great time for us to actually get an answer on what this thing is. However, I could see it just being relevant to Secret of the Mimic, with it being David's ghost and all. I think that's a very valid interpretation that very well could be the case, and that's why I don't have it as high as some of the other placements here. The next up, we have F10N4, aka Fiona, aka M1. You might be noticing a bit of a pattern here, since I think the game will be taking place at Murray's Costume Manor. A lot of these are characters from Secret of the Mimic. If you've seen my theory about Gregory, then you'll know that I believe she is the one that dropped the elevator on Cassie, which also places her down with Gregory in Murray's Costume Manor. Once again, if you haven't already, you should totally go check that video out yourself. He's also really important to the overall franchise, and it would be interesting to see how she has evolved since the time of Secret of the Mimic. Next up is Vanessa/Vanny. If you're confused about why Vanny would return and not just Vanessa, well, you should watch my last theory. Okay, that's the last time I'll say that. But seriously, I do go over that a lot in my last theory, and I think she has a pretty good chance of returning, especially since we see that she was working with Gregory at the end of Ruin, and Scott also kind of pointed to her return in his second interview with Dawko, so I kind of really think she's going to return in some way, shape, or form. Okay, this is kind of a weird one, but I think Jackie is going to return in the next game. Obviously not Jackie herself, as she is just a normal animatronic, but I think that we will see the Mimic piloting the Jackie costume yet again. We don't really see her after the chase in Secret of the Mimic, meaning she could still very well be around in Murray's Costume Manor at the time of Ruin. Plus, she's like a fan favorite, especially after that song. I understand this is kind of a long shot, but I wanted to include it anyway because I think it'd be really cool, but like I'm not gonna hold my breath. Alright, now we're entering the kind of iffy territory. I know the last one was pretty iffy, but here we get the ones that I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that one. Starting off with Glamrock Freddy, which seems like he would be a pretty easy one to say, yeah, he will return, but I'm not so sure. He could be with Gregory, he could be his friend that he mentions in Ruin, or he could just, have him still since he left with his head at the end of the Princess Quest ending, which I believe is canon. But we didn't hear from him at all in Ruin, and I don't know, I just feel like he could be out of the picture at this point. He could play some kind of role, but I kind of don't see him being a main character at all in the next game. I can't even explain why, but it doesn't feel right. Anyway, next up is Edwin Murray. I'm kind of 50-50 right now on if he's even alive. So if he's alive, then yeah, he'll certainly play a role in a future title. But then there's also the giant issue of the fact that he might very well be dead. That's kind of why he's this low. He's kind of like our Schrodinger's Murray at the moment. We don't know. Eclipse. This is another very weird entry, but I could see him having more of a role in future titles. We see Cassie repair him in Ruin, which I think could be pretty important if he sees that as an act of mercy and he comes back to save Cassie in the future, potentially. I don't know, something like that could happen, I could see it. We also just see a lot of repeated sun and moon imagery, not only in Security Breach, but also in Secret of the Mimic. Eclipse also has a lot of weird connections to the Mimic, such as its teeth that line up with the teeth of the Mimic in Ruin, as well as all of the references in Moon.exe. So I believe those connections will come to a head in the next game and we'll actually get answers on why this is the case. And then kind of the last entry here at the bottom, we have Nightmarion, who is a really weird character. I would love to do a theory on the connections between Nightmarion and the current era of FNAF, but there's just so much there that I don't understand. And I think it would be interesting if they did explore these connections in the next game, explain why Nightmarion keeps showing up as a continued presence in all of these games, However, I could also see this being a pointless Easter egg that amounts to absolutely nothing. So that's why I'm still really iffy on if it will return. But if it does, and it has a significant role in the next game, then well, hey, I told you so, right? And lastly, I do have a few more entries here, but these are all kind of joke answers. I'm not sure if they'll return or not. I'm not sure how likely it is for them to return, but I think it'd be funny if they did return. So first up, we have the Digityper from Secret of the Mimic. Okay, hear me out. There are a lot, and I mean a lot, of spare models of this guy in Murray's Costume Manor. So I'm not saying he will return as this main character or anything, but I could totally see there being a random Digityper head somewhere in the next game. And if that's the case, then you have to subscribe and like the video. There we go. There's your engagement bait right there. Next up, we have Candy Cadet. I kind of just feel like he could have some kind of presence here. They love to include Candy Cadet in all these games recently, like Ruin, 1 and 2. I mean, there's even a poster of him in Secret of the Mimic, so maybe there's like a separate model of him somewhere in Murray's Costume Manor. I don't know, but Steelwool sure does love using him to explain whatever's going on. And lastly, we have the one and only Helpy. I mean, this guy shows up in like every single game at this point. It would be really weird if he wasn't in this game in some shape or form, especially since we saw so many versions of him in Secret of the Mimic with Mr. and Mrs. Helpful. It would be weird if we didn't see some kind of Helpy. On top of that, he is of course a fan favorite, so I feel pretty confident that he will return, but I guess he should have been in the 100% category, but I put him here instead because it's kind of funny. That's my list. Let me know if there's anyone you would add or remove or change around in this list. I doubt anyone's gonna fully agree with me and my take on all of these characters. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this shorter, more fun video. I hope my improv was good enough. It's something I'm working on, so hopefully over time I can get better. I'm gonna stick to scripts for the theory videos, but for fun one-off videos like this, I'll try my best to improve my improvisation skills. But with that being said, I want to say thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the future.